The turbulence in the Nigerian educational system lingers as the Academic Staff Union of Universities declares a total and indefinite strike as hopes of resuming school are left hanging. President Muhammadu Buhari meets with governors of the All Progressives Congress linked to strong indications of crucial talks on the Tinubu presidential campaign. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Politics Today. I am Terry Ikumi. We're 199 days into the strike by the Academic Staff Union of Universities, and it's 24 hours since that strike was adjourned indefinitely after ASUU claimed that the government has been deceitful in the past 5 years and engaged in the union in fruitless and unending negotiations without a display of fidelity. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari today met with state governors elected on the platform of the All Progressives Congress at the State House, Abuja. Those present included Dr. Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State, Abubakar Badaru of Jigawa, Dakwa Abiodun of Ogun, Sanwo-Olu of Lagos, Inuwa Yahaya of Gombe, Abubakar Bello of Niger, Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa, Abubakar Bagudu of Kebbi, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and Deputy Governor of Ebonyi State, Dr. Eric Igwe. Now, against the backdrop of the 2023 general elections, that meeting came up and the president promised not to allow intimidations of any sort, whether materially, morally, or physically, insisting that it is not the kind of leadership that can emerge and consolidate the nation. In a statement released by the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Femi Adesina, today, President Buhari stated that under his leadership, he will continue to respect Nigerians by ensuring that their votes count and the people's voice matter in choosing political leaders at different levels. The president further assured Nigerians that the APC will continue to bequeath strong political institutions that reflect their choices through non-interference in elections, citing outcome of polls in Ekiti, Anambra, and Osun states as cogent indicators. Meanwhile, at the end of that meeting, here's what the chairman of the Progressives Governors Forum, Atiku Bagudu, had to say about the Academic Staff Union of Universities strike.
Remember, during a Salah visit we paid to President in Daura, Mr. President appealed to ASUU and said ASUU should be mindful about the future of the next generation. He didn't play blame game. He spoke as a father. I think he even went further to say, even if ASUU has been offended, they should please think about the next generation. I think that is the best statement that can come. And all of us are appealing to ASUU in particular, and indeed all stakeholders, let us do what will ensure that we don't miss out. Nigeria is competing with other countries. We do not have the luxury of time, so we'll continue to urge all stakeholders to do the same.
Well, that's the chairman of Progressives Governors Forum, Atiku Bagudu. He's talking about the Academic Staff Union of Universities after meeting with the president, where he reminded the nation that the president had appealed to ASUU to take the plight of the students into consideration. And that's where we pick up our conversation today. My guest is the ASUU president, Professor Emmanuel Osodeke. Welcome to Politics Today.
Thank you very much.
You listened to the Progressive Governors Forum chairman there, Atiku Bagudu, where he reminded everyone that ASUU should consider the plight of the students in its actions. And just yesterday, ASUU declared an indefinite strike, saying that the government was deceitful in the past 5 years. We want to go into the details of some of the conversations that held while you had your NEC meeting as to why this strike was extended. But before then, what's your reaction to this statement by a government official at that level saying that, almost alluding that ASUU should take into consideration beyond the negotiations with the government?
Well, I think it's so unfortunate that instead of resolving issues, you are appealing. This issue can be resolved in the interest of the Nigerian student. You see, the problem we keep having in Nigeria, and that what government had tried to sell to the people, is that strike is the problem, which is not correct. Strike is a symptom of a problem. Any day you sort out that problem, you not have strike. But we keep on looking at the strike. That is why, if whatever government proposes today, once you accept and strike is over, they believe they have solved the problem. And that's why our university has still the same dilapidable place they are today. Because we have a government, we have people who believe that the problem is a strike. It's just like you are having headache. Headache is not your temperature. There is something inside. Until you sort out those things will continue. So we will expect a situation where we have the system, sort out the problem and stop strike. That's what they should do, not appeal or this thing, or looking at strike as the problem.
Let's get this out of the way. It's been at least 24 hours since that indefinite strike was announced. Have you heard from the government?
None. Not even, nothing. That is what we are talking about. When we started our strike, between that period also, a large number of universities in the UK started strikes. It didn't take 2 days. Because they believe in education. And they came in quickly and sorted it out. But in Nigeria, I don't think we care about education. We don't, you see, the impacts are very clear. As I speak to you, you can see our doctors flying away. You can see our lecturers flying away out of the country. Is that what we want? I heard the Minister of Health saying, when 2 go, we replace with 2. And I feel so sad for a country. So 2 consultants will leave. You go and bring 2 internship lecturers, and you say you have replaced them. 2 internship doctors, you say you replace them. A professor of computer engineering will leave this country and replace with the graduate student. You say you have replaced them. So that is how they look at this country, that once somebody leaves, you replace. Have you replaced that person? Person you took 30, 20 years to train. I have gotten the best, you produce the PhD, and then you say you have replaced him with this thing. And what do you call it? Orthopedic doctor that has been there for a long time, well known all over the world, leaves your country, and you say you replace with a fresh doctor, a doctor on internship, and you say you have replaced them.
When was the last meeting with the government?
The last time we had a meeting with government was in June, or May or June, when the chief of staff, the government director, met in a tripartite plus, what they refer to as a tripartite plus meeting. I think early June. We had that meeting, and we agreed that within 6 weeks we reconvene, and the committee will set up in place, will come back and report to us, and we'll take a final decision. But since now, that committee in attendance was the chief of staff, secretary to the federal government, the Sultan of Sokoto, Nairek, the president of Khan, and all the unions. And we met and raised the issues. And they gave the Nimi Breeze Committee time, 2 weeks or so to finish the negotiation, gave UTAS, what do you call it, ANIDA, 3 weeks to finish testing. And we thought that within the next 3 weeks or 4 weeks, this issue they will return back, the chief of staff will reconvene that meeting, then the strike will call off.
But has that not been overtaken by the Minister of Education taking over negotiations now?
Will you compare a minister, if you look at a committee headed by chief of staff and minister, which one is higher?
Have you met the minister since?
We have not. We have not had any official meeting with him. Nothing. All we've had are just unofficial meeting. That is it. Private meeting. That's not official meeting. We have not had any on this issue.
We know there are some reports coming up from your NEC meeting that there were either suggestions or resolutions that, based on the deceitfulness of the government, as you allege, that ASUU will no longer negotiate with the government. Is that true?
You see, we also have, in Nigeria, you have so many media, the social media and what have you. They just release issues just to get, maybe be popular or what have you. We never say so.
So ASUU is still open to negotiation?
We are open to negotiation. As a union, we are open to invitation to anybody. We are willing.
So at what level are we now with this negotiation? Because it would seem that if there are no negotiations in place, this strike could linger till this administration goes out of place.
Look, and I will repeat it to Nigerians. This issue can be resolved in 1 day if the government side is sincere and not just looking for a way either to punish the union or blackmail, as the Minister of Education said, that want to use this, what we are doing to ASUU, to teach the labor a lesson. You can imagine that. Your university are short. You are negotiating with the union and you say, I want to use this particular thing to teach the union a lesson. You can imagine that. Two, a minister is going to say, students, go and sue your lecturer because government delayed the process. You see, those are the things you should not hear in a sane system.
Professor Sodeke, last week, the Minister of Education did say that government has met almost all the demands of ASUU. He went further to say that I think 50 billion has been approved for allowances for academic and non-academic staff. Is that true?
You see, I want to put it this way again. Nigerian people will just talk. Is there evidence to show, any evidence to show that they gave us such information in writing that government will give 50 billion for any academic allowance? Is there any evidence? They should show it. Is there evidence to show that they have shown us that they have accepted UTAS, which came tops after the 3 weeks? When we met with the chief of staff, we agree that neither will test the 3, the best will be accepted.
What was the time frame given for that?
3 weeks. That was in June. Have they accepted the NIDA? Have they agreed on when they are giving revalidation fund and where the money is? Have they even, the simplest of them is the release of visitation panel report. A panel that was set up in March last year. We are in August this year. The report is not out. That you don't need money. Have they released the report? Have they done anything on the issue of proliferation in university? You see, we are in a system where people go out because the public is accept anything. They just churn it out. They should show evidence of what they have done. They should show Nigerian people, the Nigerian student at home, show them that we have done A, B, C, D, and show evidence.
Are you saying the government has done nothing? Absolutely nothing. Or the government has gone a distance which is not satisfactory to us?
The only area where we have something written is on renegotiation. And what did they do? First, they set up a panel in 2017, headed by Balaki, to negotiate with us 5 years ago. And they delayed us with the idea that they want to introduce tuition fee of 1 million naira and what have you. Do you have to come with a meeting with ASUU to tell Nigerians you want to increase tuition fee? Blackmail. And we rejected because you can't, that not before us. We rejected it and we insisted. Balaki was removed and they brought Musali Jubril. And when they came, we asked them, do you have the mandate of the government that set you up, your committee up, to negotiate with us? They said yes. We said fine. So we negotiated, collective bargaining. You give and take. And we reached an agreement. And they said, give us permission, give us time to go to our principal to give the permission to sign that agreement, which is normal. And they went in May 2021. They didn't come back until we started this strike in 2020. That's one of the things that instigated this strike. Did it take 1 year for you to either accept or reject? Then we also, this year again, they appointed Nimi Breeze Committee. And Nimi Breeze Committee met with us again, and we asked them again, do you have the mandate of the government? They say yes. Therefore, go and bring that mandate in writing. And what you are proposing this time, which they did in writing, and we have it.
So what is the government proposing?
They are proposing salary increase, which we all of us accepted and we agree. Where we have some disagreement was the taxation. You know, ASUU, many Nigerians don't understand, when we say salary of ASUU, they are all not salary by say. Part of it for your working tools, your publication, journal publications, conference attendant, buying of books, subscription to journal, and what have you. These are what you need to do your work. It's part of that salary. That all those aspects should be removed and put as not taxable. You don't tax items of work. And then you leave a column for salary, which they agreed. All of us agreed. And they went back to the principal again, as they did before, during Musali Jabri, to get permission to sign. And we were waiting for them. Then the next thing you had the Minister of Labor, the two of them, went to air and said, we need 1.1 trillion. How they generated, we don't know. They said what they gave us, this amount, gave them a lower amount, that we chased out the government ministry when they were negotiating, that Musali Jubril was just there and we allocated salary to ourselves. Musali Jubril want to make the and all lies. And thank God and that committee set up by government, headed by Minimiri, have come out to the public in a paid advert to say all those things were lies. All the idea was just to raise unnecessary issue against the union so that government will not sign. And what did they do? They came back 3 weeks ago and said, no, that thing we negotiated, that you brought to us, your own proposal to us, which we accepted, that is no more invalid, that the group, a union known as National Salary Income and Wage Commission, said they should just dash us little thing. And I said, you know, we don't expect dash. We negotiate salary. You know the idea? If I dash you something, I can still take it back. If I dash you today, and I can take it back. If I give you an award, I can retrieve it. But if you haven't negotiated something, it becomes binding.
Was there a figure for the dash? They proposed the dash as you put it.
It's just pretense. Today, let me put it, I will be repeated all over again. The basis for you to assess a lecturer. University is universal. And that's why any country you go in this world, you see Nigerian lecturing. When you come to Nigerian university, you don't see a single foreigner teaching, not even from Benin. So for you to have a university well-ranked, you have to, one of the indices they use that you have to have foreign lecturers teaching in the university to be well-ranked, bringing their own knowledge, bringing their own background. You should have students from all over the country, all over the world, come as students in the class. But in Nigeria today, you don't have such thing. Why? Because of what you pay your lecturers.
Perhaps one of the issues on ground now, which is perhaps one of the biggest bones of contention, is the no work, no pay issue, where the government has said that it cannot pay ASUU for the period it was on strike. And it would seem that that's another issue. If that, is ASUU willing to shift grounds on that if all the demands are met?
Let me explain again. Those are just blackmails. Have we reached there? Have they addressed the issue while we're on strike? What are they talking about? No work, no pay.
Is that not a concern for ASUU?
Is it part of the issue we're raising when we're negotiating with them?
No, is it not a concern
Just
for
wait.
ASUU?
When you get there, you talk about it. But when the minister came on air, that was the main issue, which is not wrong. Address what we have in our negotiation.
But that's why I ask you, Prof.
I will come to it.
If the government addresses other issues without the no work, no pay.
I will come to that. But what I'm saying, why should you be bringing it now? You purposely, deliberately delay the negotiation. Purposely delay the negotiation. Government purposely ensure that our children stay at home for 6 or 8 months. Purposely. Because if they have come in to negotiate with you in February, the students will not stay at home. If they are coming in March, they will not be at home. If they are coming in April, but purposely, deliberately, delay the process. You will set up a panel, they'll give you report, you delay it for 1 year before you release the result. Purposely delayed it. And then, instead of addressing the issue, I don't know, no work, no pay. Now, let's talk about no work, no pay. In my letter of appointment, and every lecturer in Nigerian university, just like you have in the world, the function of a lecturer is teaching, research, and community service. Those are the 3 trajectory of the function of lecturer. So if you're on strike, the only thing you're not teaching, which is one of the function of the lecturer is you're not teaching. When you go to the you see our colleagues in offices. You see them all over the way doing their research as part of their job, doing community service. So that is one asset. So if you are remove one and you are not finished, you are talking no work, no pay. That is one too. Unlike other areas, if the school resumes today, all of us will go back to where we stopped, 2020, 2021, and start making up for the time lost, for the period lost. What does that mean? When in university, there were no strike, when the university was running in the 70s, 80s, an average semester is 17 weeks. And in a session, you have 2 weeks, 2 semesters, which is 34 weeks. Out of 50, how many number of weeks in a year? 50-something weeks in a year. What that means is that you teach for 34 weeks, and you go on vacation, not leave. You go on vacation to go and relax, do your research, and come back after 3 months, 2 to 3 months, if you add the 2 semesters to start. But in the recent time, because of this strike, all the lecturers will forfeit all these vacations, forfeit all their leave to make up for what they have lost. So when I'm resuming now, I should be going on leave on that vacation. But we are going to go back to teach those things we have left. Bring those students. I have said it before and I will repeat it. And you can ask any university. The university where I teach, we have not lost a session. So if government said that when we come back, we should allow the children to just stay and start a new session. As I was speaking to you, there are 2 sets of students that have been admitted by JAM. 2 sets. We are going to teach them, bring them up. And we say we should allow those 2 tests to go, and allow JAMB to do another one, and allow Nigerian students who are past JAMB to allow them, those JAMB to wash away. So these are the things. That's why I'm saying that to come with a threat that no work, no play, is that where we are now? Have we reached there? Have they, look, we can tell about one up if we have resolved all the issues. I still start to resume. But what did they do? To set up against the student, to set up against the people, to blackmail us.
Well, I think
unnecessary.
Interestingly, that's where we are right now, because the students for whom you are fighting, or whom you say you are fighting, specifically the Nigerian Association of Nigerian Students, through the chairman, the president of the union, says that ASUU is self-serving and it would no longer support ASUU in this call for the government's intervention, because ASUU seems to be more focused about its welfare than the plight of the children, of the students.
The question, has his group ever supported the struggle for Nigerian students? In the 70s, 80s, students, we have told any day the parents and the students take over this struggle, we will not have this problem. Have they ever supported any of the program? His own said. Apart from moving from one government office to another. So leave that one alone. I go and ask the ordinary student on the street. Not those leaders. What are we saying? Our university good? The little thing you today, let me give you. In the public primary secondary schools, they are dead. But the teachers didn't fight. As I speak to you, so even with this one, with what we have now, you still have 95% of the students in the public university because of our struggle. Go to any state university, federal universities. The project you are seeing is the product of our struggle. And a student will say, go to the lab now. People being trained abroad, being trained all over the place. It's product of our struggle. The few things you have in laboratory, go and check in laboratory. It's the product of our struggle. And a student will say, we are not supporting you. Did we ask for their support when we started this struggle? We didn't ask for anybody's support.
You know,
but we believe it's genuine.
It would seem that there are some cracks within your unions as well at the state level, because some schools are beginning to reopen or insisting that they will reopen, and it's sort of tied to your alleged statements describing them as quacks. And even though you've refuted that, I think a few hours ago we heard that Ekiti State University would be joining those who want to resume classes.
Let me put it okay, that we are in a place in Nigeria where we have journalism, people do all sorts of things. My appearance at Arise TV was very clear. It wasn't secret, just like we are talking now. What I said is very clear. The person on the government asked me a question, just like you have asked me now, that your members in 3 universities have abandoned this thing. He named them ASUU, and I gave them that ASUU will have problem with them, and because the university sacked all our all the leaders of our union in the brand. That's why they're not on strike. That in Ekwasu, they are not even a member yet. We gave them, we are watching them, and they are not meeting the standard. And that Oshun, that they were punished for breaking our strike, and that they are part of the problem. So that is exactly what I said. And therefore, that our union there are not running well. That's why I use that word. Our union there are not running well. The university are not allowed that. That's the work class are not allowed the union to run well. I didn't say state university. There I mentioned 3 again. Ekiti State University, Kaduna State University. So that Nigerian will hear Kaduna University and Yobe State University. That those universities, although the management and government have forced the university to announce resumption, our members say they are not teaching. That's what I said on those 3 universities. But I'm surprised that they are busy writing all sorts of things. That is exactly the word I use. When I finish, the person, Abati, now ask, do you mean that those really don't matter? And when he used those, my impression of those are those 3 universities mentioned. And I say yes, because they are not there. Are they correct? And they say yes. Because if you are not doing what is correct, what do you refer that for? If your profession, this is your profession, you're not doing, what do you call it? So I didn't say state university, but a group of media have gone to say that the president of us say trade universities are quacks.
But how is
I never used that word.
How's the union handling the reopening of certain universities? Is it not leading to a crack in your...
There is no crack. Like I said, ASUU does not run a university. Every university can announce resumption. No, you are not resumption. I remember I said they will not teach. We are not coming back from strike. We didn't close universities. No university sat down, ASUU said close university. So you can reopen, but I remember I said they will not teach. That is strike.
All right.
So that you note it very well. So if a university had now resumption, let me give one, the Ekiti. The vice chancellor went and called a meeting on Sunday, on Saturday. It's not a working day. Collected a few people, deans, HOD, I'm headed for a meeting. Which then, that body is not an organ of a university anywhere. You call for a meeting and say they have now resumption. Is that how? It's the Senate of University that announces resumption. That is the standard. So they should know that what they have done is not correct. It's the Senate of a university that have the right by the law to announce resumption, not a committee called on Saturday by a VC. It's on universities. They say they are doing exam. But you know who are supervising? Youth corpers. They just go to this thing and pick out questions and start giving questions. For courses that have not been taught. Which means, and what they're doing too is marking. They do objective questions. So you are doing art, fine art. You ask objective questions in an exam so that anybody can mark it. What do you call that? Would that be allowed by any standard in the world? That the lecturer who should teach the course doesn't know when the exam is conducted, how the questions are marked. What do you call that? Maybe those who are running those universities who are busy talking in the press should tell us that the university where you are doing exam, when the lecturer taught the course, didn't know how you said the question, didn't know how the question is marked.
Professor,
so you know how we are going to pay for it? We are already paying. I will give it to you. In the 70s, 80s, I don't know where you were there in early 90s, you don't hear a building collapsing in Nigeria. You don't hear it. But today, there is no week a building does not collapse. Because a student passed through a university where you are using stove as a Bunsen burner. When in your generic office workshop, there is nothing. They are passed out. Just like Nigeria says that allow them to graduate. They graduate and they are the one heading those buildings you are seeing. They are the one now who now supervising those buildings when they have no idea of the practical component. And all of us are paying the price. Go to our road. A road is started today. Go the next year, is gone. Because the man who you put there, a person who passed through the university without any practical component, without any this thing, he passes through, and he just look at the road, he sees star, he says, thank God, it's okay. By next year, you pass, it's bad. And if you don't do something urgently, I enter the medical team. You can enter a hospital, you have headache, they say you have cancer. Because the doctor didn't have all the complement of what you want. That is why any country that play with education, that say just graduate people, whether the thing is okay or not, graduate them. You are playing with the life of your people. And that's exactly where we are today. And I hope Nigeria and the government should for once, if one man can steal 109 million, let us steal 109 billion. And what ASUU is asking is not 109 billion. And the government says there's no money in your education. I don't think we should for once love this country and love our people.
Prof, speaking of which, now that you mention it, when the $23 million Bacha loot was, the agreement for the repatriation was signed, there were those who felt that the government should have channeled that money to ASUU. Would that have had any impact on ASUU's position?
Definitely. Let's take a typical man, you have a house, and your children are sick, your child is sick, seriously, and you have paid money that you were not expecting, where will you put the money? So that child should be the first thing you will treat, is it not? Right? Before you start thinking about how you are going to buy clothes. Or university are short for 6 months. You now have access. You keep saying there's more, and then a fund that you were not expecting came. Where should you, if we really love education, put the money? In that particular place. But you are seeing it. You are seeing how the country is doing. You say you don't have money. So what are we saying? We need to love this country.
Prof, just before I let you go, you had talked about the position of the government and said that they had come with proposals which everyone had agreed to, but they went back and came and changed it. Just so Nigerians will be clear, what exactly is ASUU's stance on this, and what would make ASUU shift grounds, or has ASUU shifted grounds in any way? What would make ASUU call off the strike? What are some of the demands that you could let go of?
One, government should tell us and Nigerians, this money you say you have approved is alleged to have approved for revitalization. How much is it and where is it lodged? Where will it be released? Two, UTAS, that from the test and government have confirmed it, that UTAS came top, as we agree with the meeting with the head of service, chief of staff and all others. Has UTAS been accepted as means of paying salary? Have you found out that IPCs, they have confirmed that IPCs escape distant last, which is not good, and send a panel to look for that. If they have accepted that? 3, have they accepted the agreement we reached with their panel? They should come and tell us this, not just going to the press. It's who they should come to, not to the press. You should call us for meeting, and then we'll look at it. Not to the press. Not to the public.
All right, Prof.
That's collective bargaining.
Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, ASUU President, I'd like to thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
When we return, we will talk about the state of the nation and also the 2023 general elections. Stay with us. Here's Political Roundup.
The National Assembly candidates of the All Progressives Congress in Rivers State have staged a protest at the Federal High Court in Port Harcourt, demanding that Justice Stephen Delop Palm steps down from hearing the case filed by the People's Democratic Party against the APC. The protest was staged by the 13 House of Representatives members and 3 senatorial candidates of the APC for next year's elections after PDP filed a suit challenging the National Assembly primaries conducted by the APC in Rivers State, alleging that the exercise was not monitored by the Independent National Electoral Commission, among other alleged infractions.
When a judge, has a petition before him to recuse himself, that petition must be attended to.
The progressive youths in Abia State are demanding a credible election process which will produce good leaders at various levels in the country. The president of the progressive Abia youths, Mr. Ekejuba Kingsley, at a forum in Umaya, urged youths to desist from vote buying and selling during election.
Dear Abia youth, do not sell your vote. Don't allow yourselves to be used as taught.
The Nigerian Union of Local Government Employees and the chairman of Local Government Service Commissions are calling for speedy passage of the Local Government Autonomy Bill for effective grassroots development. The local government workers who spoke at a conference on local government administration in Abuja note that a full autonomy for local governments in Nigeria will be a solution to the challenges of insecurity and unemployment. According to them, local government financial autonomy will enable grassroots mobilization against insecurity.
If we are serious in Nigeria to address insurrection, banditry, criminality, the time to grant local government autonomy is now.
A federal high court in Abuja has fixed the 19th, 20th and 21st of October 2022 for the trial of the suspended Deputy Governor of Police, Abba Kyari, and 4 others who are being prosecuted by the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, on allegations of illicit drug deal. Justice Emeka Nwite fixed the dates while ruling on the bail application filed by the former head of the Inspector General of Police Intelligence Response Team, IRT. Ruling on the bail application, Justice Nwite says the applicants failed to present sufficient materials and evidence to warrant the granting of the fresh application. Justice Nwite thereafter reaffirmed his earlier ruling of March 28, 2022, ordering an accelerated hearing.
Is that we are going to study the ruling and know what step to take.
A coalition of young politicians in Abuja have vowed to determine the outcome of the 2023 general elections with their numerical strength, insisting that the next government must have more representation of young people. Speaking at a conference to sensitize young people on the need to come out and vote on election day in Abuja, the president of the Nigerian Youths in Politics says the next elections will not be business as usual. He appeals to young people to mobilize support for fellow young politicians who are in the contest and to also shun violence and vote selling and buying in the 2023 general elections.
2023 is not going to be business as usual. We have the capacity, we have the human resources, we are everywhere and we are ready to take up the mantle of leadership.
Welcome back to the discussion. Next, we'll look at the state of the nation. I'm joined by Mr. Sani Yabagi. He is the ADP presidential candidate. Also, Ahmed Sajo, an APC chieftain, and then Shehu Gabam is the Social Democratic Party National Secretary. He joins us virtually. Welcome, gentlemen, to Politics Today.
Thank you very much.
I'd like us to begin with the statement from the Minister of Finance and National Planning. Let's get your reaction to that. It would seem that the federal government intends to borrow over 11 trillion naira, and there are concerns that certain national assets would be sold as well. How do you react to that? Mr. Yabagi, please.
Yeah, well, it's a tragedy that we are witnessing this kind of retrogression in our economic progress as a nation with so much resources, natural endowment, human capital. All the fundamentals are here that should make this country to be today developed economy, not a developing country. And when you have a nation that says that they're not going to budget for capital projects in 2023 and piling up debts to the tune of 11.3 trillion naira, and the worst part of it is that I think is it 6.3 or 3 point something trillion is going to be spent on consumption of petroleum products.
It's about
Government
3
point something, So what does that tell you? When 30% of what you are borrowing is going to consumption, and this consumption is not in any way adding to your productivity, because our GDP since this government took over has been nosediving. When they took over, it was pushing $600 billion. Today, we are managing to reach about 300 like something billion dollars. So you've lost almost half of your GDP. So, and if you lost your productivity by almost 50%, what does that tell you about that country? So again, to come and say that you are going to borrow 11 trillion naira to finance a 19 point something trillion naira budget, then it shows that we are at precipice. And I won't be surprised if very soon we will not be knocking on the doors of IMF to come and bail us out, because we can't service our debts now. The revenue that we are making, it's not even up to the amount we are going to borrow. The revenue we are going to make, the projected revenue is about 8 point something trillion, of which 1.6 or something like that will come from the oil-related sources. Then you wonder, oil is where we have comparative advantage, as far as export is concerned, as far as foreign exchange earning is concerned. And all it takes is for you to be able to manage resources in a manner that it will add value to your economy. We are not doing that. We are not even able to refine this oil for us to have that value addition that countries who are serious, keyed into their economic policies, that you must add value. You don't export jobs and prosperity to other countries.
Let me go to Mr. Sajo. Is there justification for what we see now?
I don't know how to answer your question when you ask for justification, but I must tell you that we've been living a lie for too long in this country, and that has led us to this debt trap. We want to live above our means. Everybody wants everything consumable to be subsidized. Everybody that is a worker wants increase in income. And nobody is talking about increase in productivity. Nobody is talking about increase in capacity to meet up target, to deliver service. We're only talking about increase in incomes and consumption habits. We must begin to recalibrate ourselves. We must begin to ask ourselves, very deep questions about the trajectory our nation is going to. This debt trap is going to really, really, really destroy the country if it's not checked. But we can't, exit it under the system we are operating, where people expect subsidies, people expect increases in income without corresponding increase in value addition to service delivery and other aspects of our lives. I think we must begin to recalibrate ourselves. We must begin to see ourselves as a nation that is producing rather than a nation that is consuming. How that can be done, I don't know, but I know that falling into a debt trap is actually a trap that could kill the nation.
All right, let me go to the Mr. Shehu Gabam, the SDP National Secretary now, and get your reactions to this. But while you do that, this statement alluded to the Minister of Finance was when she appeared to defend the MTEF at the hearing at the House of Representatives, and she gave two possible scenarios as to what exactly is happening and the deficit of over 11 trillion naira, which I beg your pardon, a deficit of over 12.42 trillion naira in the 2023 budget. One of the concerns was how the fuel subsidy issue would be addressed, and that's responsible for that deficit, according to her. One of the options is that we could retain subsidy for the fiscal year of 2023 or let it go in June. How do you react?
Thank you very much. First, let me correct the impression you have created. I'm not the National Secretary of SDP. I am the national chairman of SDP, elected at the convention, and all media houses have covered, including the Channels Television. Secondly, as related to the subsidy, I think it is grossly abused. It is politics. It is a cartel that was established to siphon the resources and exploit the country. It has been on for years. Virtually every administration come up with their own defensive mechanism, come up with their own statistics to justify this subsidy, whether it exists or not. Listening to the various versions being submitted by experts, you come to a conclusion whether there's a subsidy or not. Whether it was the creation of government or politicians or whatever you call them to continue to shortchange Nigerians along these lines of arguments and debate for subsidy or non-existence of subsidy. The same current president, when he was campaigning to be president of Nigeria, have said there's nothing like subsidy. And today, this subsidy is subsisting, which is crippling the country, taking the economy on its knees, virtually disorganizing the entire economy of the country, in a country where the purchasing power of Nigeria have gone to close to 0%, in a country where we cannot feed ourselves right now, and then you are budgeting billions or trillions into subsidy that you cannot really trace to anything. So it's a failure of critical leadership to deal with these issues. And also, it's clearly said that the president is not really doing much about accountability, just the way he mentioned that he's fighting corruption. Because in the leadership where corruption is a priority, this thing ought to have been sorted out a long time ago. The issue of subsidy must have been explained to Nigeria in graphic details. Nobody will live in doubt whether there's subsidy or there's no subsidy. I just listened to the MD of NNPC. They were talking about stealing of crude oil, which he indicted government officials, government establishments that are clearly involved in the entire operations of thieving of our resources. So how do you explain this? How will the federal government defend this? How will the Minister of Finance defend this? Is there any way that this thing can be done? Is there any way you can explain to Nigeria to get satisfied that their resources are being judiciously used? Under whose leadership? Under the leadership of this government. So we are just living in pretext. We are just living in a way, doling out statistics to confuse the country, to confuse the economy, to confuse the drivers of the economy. And at the end of the day, leadership must take responsibility. We will not stop at blaming the president for the entire thing that is ongoing for a decade, because it was part of his campaign when he was running for president that he would deal with this issue of oil subsidy. He said it's a fraud.
All right, Mr.
I've been a president for close to 8 years now. That fraud has not been established. So what do we do? It's still the government that is accountable to virtually everything that is ongoing. And the government must account for this. The government must come out clearly and tell Nigeria what is subsidy, why is this subsidy, why are we being subjugated, why are we suffering, why is it being imposed on ordinary Nigerians? These are clear issues. That is clear politics, clear process of siphoning the resources of the country and being defended by government institutions.
All right, Mr. Gabam. Mr. Gabam, let's come back to the studio now. You listened to him, and one of the points he raised was the issue of oil theft as raised by the MD of the NNPC, which was something we're going to come to as well, because largely related to that is the issue of revenue. And there are concerns of this oil theft and how it affects our revenue generation. And this is coming just ahead of the IMF's projection that we could be spending all our revenue on debt servicing. And here we are, highly placed government officials, security agencies, and religious leaders, not to mention, in fact, he would say that virtually everyone who has access is culpable in it. Is this salvageable, considering the caliber of people involved in the oil theft?
Well, what is surprising to me is that the culprits are the ones who are playing the victim in this case, because I can't understand how NNPC group management director will come and say that he doesn't, that it's the government people who are stealing, the crude oil, from Nigeria, when he is, in a position to stop it, because he has, all the wherewithal to put in place those, gadgets that can ensure that the crude oil is not stolen in the manner it's being stolen today. There are systems. If you have an organization that does not know, in today's IT, world, does not know what is happening, remotely in his assets, and he sits here, he waits for somebody to give him information, all running the organization on manual basis, or they install a system and they shortchange the system themselves. And you are telling me that people are stealing the crude oil, the same government, that NNPC is owned by who? The government. People stealing the crude oil, as NNPC is telling us, is the government. These are the security agents. That's why we believe that this is conspiracy against Nigeria by people that are privileged to be paid by taxpayers' money, and then are telling us also of things that you think they think we don't have brains to be able to think. So I think this issue squarely is on the doorsteps of NNPC, because not only are they, even after NNPC has been privatized, NNPCL, they are still in charge of allocation of crude oil, because they are the ones that manage the resources in terms of what comes to the federal government coffers. NAPINS is still under NNPC that supervises what is happening. You have the regulatory agencies that sprung up. Those agencies are supposed to, if they were functioning, they are working the way they're supposed to work, they shouldn't play victims to us. How did it manage that a vessel carrying almost $3 billion of oil escaped all the Nigerian security outfit that we have? It's only another country that is not even as big as Nigeria that will be able to intercept and tell us that so many vessels are escaping. The eyes of these agencies that are supposed to ensure that this crude oil theft is not. They are the ones stealing the crude oil, because you cannot come into that environment unless you are an expert in that business. So the point I'm making is that it is President Muhammadu Buhari that should should step up to the plate and punish those that should be punished, because we can't be losing $5 billion documented by 90 year in, year out, and they say there's no thief. Nobody has been caught. Nobody has taken it before the court. Are there spirits that are stealing our crude oil? So, and again, when you talk about the security agencies, the commander-in-chief should step up, should rise to the occasion and question his troops, people that he posted into the naval officers, the air force officers. They're under him. NNPC is under President Muhammadu Buhari as the Minister of Crude Oil, Minister of Oil. The security agencies that are stealing this crude oil, they're still under Mr. President. The whole corruption is under Mr. President, immediate purview. So how can you tell me that is not conspiracy at the top? To run? That's why when we come to power as ADP government, we know what to do, because all it takes is just for you to stop this stealing. There's nothing, again, that you need to do in this country for us to, solve all these problems that we're having.
Mr. Sajo, Mr. Yabagi's point is almost suggesting that the government has failed to protect its assets. Mr. Kyari was speaking from an informed position, and many would believe that what he is saying, the government would be already aware. Does this suggest that the government is unable to prosecute those involved? Because it would seem that the government knows those who are involved.
I want to put it this way, that definitely, for the scale and the level of which this theft is taking place, and the fact that till this minute, like my brother here said, nobody has been fingered and punished, means that something is definitely wrong somewhere. That is to be very clear. But I think I look at what is wrong beyond just the government of the day. I look at all of us as culprits because there are four things we have lost. And when you lose those four things, you lose yourself. We've lost our humanity. Today, we're not talking to each other as human beings. We are segmenting each other. Is he a Muslim? Is he a Christian? Is he a this? Is he a that? But forgetting that you have to be human first before you are any of those things. So when we reduce our argument as to just our position within the natural fault lines, we are misleading ourselves and misleading the system. Secondly, we have lost our capacity to build an elite consensus around right and wrong. Even when you say people have stolen, somebody will wake up and tell you that, look, okay, he has stolen, but he has taken our share. It's our turn for our son to steal. Even when you lose your sense of right and wrong, you are completely lost. And then thirdly, there is this huge trust deficit in everything. We've even lost hope in our own country, in ourselves. We do not even see ourselves as, with pride any longer. And so we have neglected all the things we are supposed to do. But the truth about it is that the level we are going, if we do not sit down, and I am worried. 2023 elections are coming. We're in an election, we're going to face an election cycle. And what I am seeing out there is that the entire political process has become so transactional that it looks like what matters in this whole political calculation is how much money is brought to the table. Young people will tell you, do not sell your vote, do not. But we are politicians, we are on the field. We know that they go by the side and negotiate and they want to collect some money. People will form groups. All these groups they are doing, what are they doing? They're not doing it because they really want the political process to be sane, to be good. They want to get money. Why? How can a system that sells itself so cheaply, really produce a result that is sustainable?
Well, you've made some points, so let me, how time flies anyway, let me go to the national chairman of the SDP, Shehu Gabam, to get his final thoughts linked from where you left it off. Mr. Gabam.
I want to thank you for this. Let me say this very clearly, that the government security agencies are not lacking capacity to generate intelligence. Anybody who assumes that we lack capacity to generate intelligence is not being fair to the country. Number two, sufficient intelligence have been generated surrounding fraud and criminal elements in the oil sector. Number three, the joint military or security operations in the Niger Delta area related to oil thievery are all multi-billionaires. How do they become multi-billionaires? And they are all under the commander-in-chief, the president, and commander-in-chief of the Armed Forces of the Republic of Nigeria. Virtually every uniformed man that has been deployed for an assignment is with the approval of the president, because the commander-in-chief, and he appointed the service chief that deploys those security personnel. And so the level of thievery in the Niger Delta on the oil, there is no way the president can extricate himself from this. He's the president and commander-in-chief. He's the number one minister of petroleum. He supervised the ministry. So what the MD of NNPC have said is a direct indictment of the president. And there is no way you can exonerate the executive from this, because the MD of NNPC can virtually do nothing. He's not in charge of the security agencies. We shouldn't deceive ourselves and politicize the whole thing. The whole thing have turned to a cartel, being allocated, or people being given an opportunity to steal as much as they can. That is why there's no deterrence. That is why there's no prosecution. When we continue to speak outside the fact, it will continue to haunt us, just the way it has crippled the economy. It's simply because we refuse to face reality. The leadership of the country refuses to face reality. The leadership of the country is playing to the gallery. And that is why you have politicians that are politicizing the country, going on religious bigotry, going on ethnic bigotry, It's like we are a banana republic. There is no law.
Mr. Shehu, I would like to thank you very much. Sadly, we've run out of time. There's so much to talk about, but not enough time. Shehu Gabam is the national chairman of the Social Democratic Party. I also like to thank Mr. Sani Yabagi, the ADP presidential candidate, and of course, Mr. Ahmed Sajil, an APC chieftain who was also a former commissioner of information in Adamawa State.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's all the time we have on politics today. Thank you very much for your time and enjoy the rest of your evening. I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.